Ladies and gentlemen, MrCropper here, the purpose of life. Everybody's got to have an answer for the purpose of life. Ayn Rand had an answer too.
Life. I would say that the question itself is improper.
And then she goes on to say, you shouldn't ask what's the purpose of life, you should ask what's the purpose of your life. Now, I have been harping on this in the videos that I've done recently against various objectivist critiques, or critiques of objectivism, I should say. And I keep saying to people, you choose. You're the only one that can choose. Why would you go look at those people? What do they know? And there was one point the guy says the best way for him to know what's true is to reach a consensus with the people around him. And I said, why don't you tell them to call you? Why do you have to call them? Screw it. Why don't you tell them you're the arbiter of truth? Why are they the arbiter of truth? They're just so many individuals. So, that view is epistemology. And that's having a metaphysical and epistemological view of yourself as an individual. Viewing yourself as an individual is to say, my judgment is as sound as any other person's in this universe. My judgment of my mind is equal to any person's in this universe. Now, apply that to ethics. What would you say in ethics? Well, what's the purpose of life? There's no purpose to life. There's only you choosing what the purpose to your life is. See? Now, a lot of anarchists, that's going to make their head Platonists, rationalists, that's going to make their head blow up, right? They're going to say, each individual chooses for themselves, so it's not objective. Yeah, you have to choose for yourself. That's ethics.
It smuggles in a wrong answer. The question should be, what is the purpose of your life? What is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of each particular individual about whom we inquire, but not what is the purpose of life? Asked that way, it seems to imply that somebody outside of us, naturally some supernatural being, is the one who has to prescribe that purpose.
Now, it's not necessarily a supernatural human being, like as we saw with Lefty Philosophy, I believe, is the video we were doing, and he just kept wanting the group to do it. He never really mentioned God or the Bible or anything like that, but for him, it was the group, and always the bad little individual over there was trying to be an individual and be mean to the poor collective, and the poor collective doesn't have any individuals in it to defend itself. So the individuals just pick on that poor little collective. And, oh jeez, now I've got my head back into that video. I better... Alright, now I can't remember what I was saying. I got my head back in the other video.
And we should spend our lives trying to find it out and then live up to it. There is no such thing as the purpose of life, because life is an end in itself. Life is the purpose of life.
Life is the purpose of life. Now, what's the purpose of your life? Now, if life is the purpose of life, that's going to confuse the anarchists. Life is the purpose of life in a metaphysical sense. Living is the purpose of life, right? So don't get too concerned with that, because, God, I can just imagine the rationalists running away with that. Life is the purpose of life. Well, then everything has to live all the time. God. No, if life is the purpose of life, that means that you get to choose what you do with your life, because now you're alive. It's dropped you off on the doorstep of life, and it's now driven away. Life is driven away, because after you were born, now it's up to you. Now you can carry on if you want, having more babies and sending life further, or not. That's up to you. There's no particular necessity that you have to or should. Unless it's a benefit to you, then there's no reason why you should. So the purpose of your life is up to you to decide. Now, where does objectivity come into it then? Because that's going to blow a lot of people's brains. Whoa, so I can decide for myself, subjectively, what the purpose of my life is? You can decide for yourself, yeah. Now, if you decide in an insane way, then you're going to have an insane life. If you decide in a sane and rational way, thinking through what you do, then you're going to be more pleased with your decisions, and your decisions are going to be connected to each other and make more sense. We can mention Peikoff's dim hypothesis here. There's the D type, which disintegrates everything, and there's the M type, which integrates, but it misintegrates. They integrate on some basis. So you can look at an M-type person. They go to church all the time, and they refuse to ever take a drink because they believe it's a sin. And yet, they go to bed at the same time every night, they pay their bills, it looks, for the life of you, it looks like they are an orderly person with an orderly mind, Little do you know, they have integrated their life around some false principle, religion, let's say. So, you look at them and you say, well, they've got a hierarchy and they've got something solid and something to believe in, and they've got a thing, they've got something, they're a thing, as opposed to like some hippie who just bounces from couch to couch of his friends, and never knows where he's at and has no job, a total D type, versus an M type who has a job, goes to church, and so on. Now you look at them, and on the surface, they do look different. In actuality, they are both just a way of abusing integration. They're both the wrong way of looking at integration. One of them chooses some silly thing, the Bible or whatever, and the other one dispenses with integrating and just goes moment to moment by whim. But neither of them look at reality. So you would do best, you do better to integrate yourself around some false principle, but the Muslims do that. So you see where that gets them. They blow themselves up with bombs because they're integrated around a false principle. So you would do your very best to try to integrate yourself around reality, which means follow reality. Which means when somebody offers you a principle to follow and say, here, use this to integrate your life. How about veganism? How about you do everything for veganism? Your clothes will be vegan, your food will be vegan, your shampoo will be vegan, your soap will be vegan, So people are always going to offer you things to integrate your life around. Silly things, amazing things. Jordan Peterson says integrate your life around being responsible and making yourself a better person, although happiness isn't his goal, so why you would want to be better, I don't know. I love a lot of what he says, but he just does not get happiness, and he doesn't get the purpose of life. The purpose of life has to be chosen by each individual. It's your choice. Now, of course, the definition of the thing that we always choose is happiness. That's like Aristotle went and worked this through, and he said there's something that we always choose. And he named all the things, or a lot of things. He named a fair inventory of things that we choose. And he said, notice that we don't stop with any of these. We always use them for some other thing. What is the thing that we really are aiming at? And he narrowed it down and said, it's happiness. Now, nobody's proven him wrong since then. So all they do is they say, we've got to have something else. Can't just be happiness. And they equate it with hedonism, and they get rid of it that way. But no, you have to decide for yourself what's the purpose of your own happiness in your life. And if the purpose of your happiness is to cut your jugular because you're in some terrible situation in a prison in a Nazi Germany or something, then that's the purpose of your life at that moment, and your life is over, and it's done. So it depends on you. Suicide could be the option, and if it was, that'd be the end of your options, and you wouldn't have any choices to make after that. And it could never get better. Nothing could ever get better after suicide. So it's a stupid comparison or idea, but I know there's some D-type person out there who says, well, what if I choose suicide? Well, Ayn Rand basically dismisses those people by saying, if you choose to live, it's an if statement. If you choose to live, then the way you're going to do it is with your mind.
You should enjoy your life. You should be happy in it.
Now, she says no one should prescribe anyone else's happiness or tell anyone else what their happiness should be. And yet there she is telling you that you should be happy. You see, so it's not specific she's giving you. She's giving you what Aristotle gave us. That is just the word we use for the final end of all action. Okay? We have one word that is the final end of all action. Okay? And that is it. That is the word. Now, Aristotle had a Greek word for it, but whatever it was, it's the same concept. You just look at all human action. You omit the measurement of what the action was, why it was taken, when it was taken, where it was taken. All of those aim at one thing, and we call that one thing by a name. Aristotle found it for us. It's happiness.
Proper moral obligation is to pursue the highest form of happiness possible to you, and can explain, prove your choice to yourself.
So seek the highest happiness possible to you that you can explain and prove to yourself. So just whatever you think would make you happiest, do that. Now if you think, "Whoa, well then I'll get drunk and take a bunch of pills and go drive my car around real fast and get in a wreck." Really? Really? You think that that would make you the happiest? Of course, what would make you really, truly the happiest over the long haul, over the next year or 2 or 5 or 10, would be to have a stable life. And, you know, I mean, duh, that's a duh. But there's some D-type out there that's going to say that. So I got you, don't say it.
In rational, logical terms, any person who attempts to prescribe, and not even enforce, he just wants to prescribe the happiness of other people, is a monster and has no claim to morality at all.
If you want to prescribe the happiness of other people, you're a monster and you have no claim to morality at all. Wow. You know, that's a statement that, you know, she meant it seriously and she had concretes behind it. So we can take that statement and we can ruminate on it. We can say it to ourselves every day. We can think about it, and there is richness in that statement. There is richness in that statement. And you should hold that statement in your mind. Pardon me. And when you meet someone who wants to prescribe happiness for other people, you immediately say to yourself, "Oh, so this is one of the people she was talking about who has no claim to morality and is a monster." And then you can look at that person right there in that moment and say, "This is the Ayn Rand quote that fits." And then look at them and judge for yourself whether they're a monster in that moment. Try it. Oh, we were done. That was the end of the video. Well, I guess that's the end of this video. There's Ayn Rand on happiness. That was good stuff, huh? Next up, Debbie Gate. Automatically coming up. No, I'm not doing Debbie Gate. I'm just meaning that the computer was doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, MrCropper out. Thank you.